Hi, I'm Josue Rodriguez, and this is the Misfit Gospel. Good news for misfits. So what's a misfit? Misfits are the outliers and the geniuses, the pastors and the pagans, the stay-at-home crunchy moms and the ones who should have listened to their moms, and so many more in between. So whether or not you feel like you're in one of these groups or whether you are, we all would agree it's time for some good news. Let's go. Today, my guest is someone who I became friends with a little over a year ago, and his name is Yannick Burklin, and I'll let him fill in the gaps. What's up, Yannick?
How's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. Welcome to the Audacity Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Super glad. I had a really short list of people that I wanted to have on the show, and you were on that. And so I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
All right, man. So tell us a little bit about yourself, or a lot of bit about yourself. Let's go.
My name's Yannick. I'm 33 years old. I'll be 34 in January. That's why I probably sound a little bit confused. I am from the States, but I was raised in Berlin, Germany. It's always a hard one for me to tell people because I moved there when I was 5.
Yeah.
I lived there till I was 16, speak fluent German, have a German passport.
Uh-huh.
I actually just got my new German passport 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Currently live here, but we'll be moving to Chicago end of the summer next year, probably.
Breaking my heart, man. It's breaking my heart.
I have family here, like I said, so I'll be visiting.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome. So like you and I got acquainted because you met both of us have the same friend, Kendrick, right?
Yep.
Who is an amazing DJ and producer and artist. And then you hit me up on the gram.
Yeah, I can't really remember a lot of last year because of
yeah.
My mom was sick. That was occupying a lot of my times. I
Sure.
can't remember how we met. I thought it was Brandon actually.
Well, I assumed it was Kendrick, but it could have been Brandon but I met Kendrick and Brandon at the same time. Another friend of mine, Joe Brewer, invited all of us over to his house and thought we all should meet. And I was like, cool, what's up? People that I don't know, but they've become my friends. Actually, with Brandon, I met him before because for a brief time I worked at Vans in the mall because I was between jobs, which was very weird to be a middle-aged man working at a retail store in the mall. But I met Brandon there, but I didn't really get to know him. So
I met Brandon at
what's up, Brandon? Shout out to Brandon.
I thought he just walked in the door.
That would be awesome.
What's up, Brandon? I met Brandon at what's that coffee shop? Bridge City.
Yeah.
But I think I met him previously on Instagram.
Okay.
But he has a tattoo of Romans, the Streetlights, which we talk about later.
Yeah.
My job.
Yeah.
But he's got tattooed on his arm, and I made that connection. The funny thing actually is that Esteban at Streetlights knows Brandon pretty well.
Oh, okay.
And has had several conversations with him.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know that.
And then when I moved down here, Esteban then made the connection. He was like, "Oh, Brandon's in Greenville. You guys should link up." And then, then we linked up. Yeah.
All right. Well, so it was probably Brandon, but you know Kendrick too, though. So yeah, you reached out to me and you're like, "Are you the leader of the skate church?" And I'm like, "Yes." So for people that are new to the show, my wife and I lead Shelter Skate Church here in Greenville, South Carolina. So people will get to know more about that later on. Probably not today or in this show, but that is true. So that's how we became acquainted. And then we started meeting and over caffeinated beverages, and it's gone from there. And I'm glad to call you friend. So since you know other DJs and producers, I understand that I know that you also produce and make beats and things like that. How'd you get into that?
Actually, my first ever introduction to hip hop, well, it was more actually it was R&B, was Chris Brown
Hmm.
in middle school, I think, in Germany. This girl that I liked at the time had a Chris Brown CD, and I was like, "What are you listening to?" And then she was like, "Chris Brown," and I listened to it, and I was like, "I really like Chris Brown." And that was probably the first introductory, even though sometimes it's hard to admit that that's what that was.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I liked how, I mean, he's talented. I mean, when he
Yeah,
was in his
yeah.
prime too, he was like world famous. Obviously, I mean,
I'm just
I heard him in
I'm
Berlin.
trying to imagine what I like Chris Brown sounds like in German.
Oh no, I mean it's him. It's just I
No,
mean,
like it, like someone speaking German saying "I like" and then saying it in English, Chris Brown. I don't know.
oh,
It's just my brain.
well, I mean, in Germany, people, even if you listen to like German rap, a lot of words are English.
Oh, okay,
Um, I'm not sure why.
okay,
And then a lot of lot of Germans you just cuss in English. It just
okay.
yeah, that's just a thing.
Wow. Okay. Hey,
But
that's
then
awesome.
I also started skateboarding when I was, I don't know, 13,
Hmm.
and skate videos had a lot of hip hop in them.
Right.
And so I heard I in Paul Rodriguez's video part in the girl video was a Nas track, but it
Okay.
was just instrumental.
Oh, all
I think
right.
it was Get Down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me kind of interested in that too. So the combination of those two things kind
Right.
of got me interested in hip hop, and then that just started my journey into exploring hip hop. And then not until maybe now, it's been 12, 13 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I found out about DAW, so like digital audio workstation. So I started working in Reason first, and then made the switch to Ableton, which I work in now. And for the past 3 years now, I've been an audio engineer
Yeah.
full time, but I still make beats on the side. Well, make beats pretty daily actually. Yeah.
All right. That's pretty cool. I mean, I really like your production, and I'm not just saying that, but I'm an old school person, so obviously, I guess it's not obvious to some people, but my brain, I'm like, with music, it's like I have a favorite food, and if that's my favorite food, that's just what I eat. And so break beats and the early '90s, late '80s sound, a lot of hip hop heads, when they hear me say my favorite band is the Beastie Boys, they kind of roll their eyes. They're like, "That's not hip hop." And I'm like, "No, it is so hip hop." They're not rappers as people define rappers now, but when people realize how groundbreaking their first album was, production wise and sound wise, with their License to Ill album, that is um, pretty important. But at the same time, that's not why I listen to them, because I was raised Christian, and we weren't allowed to listen to secular music for a long time. Of course, when License to Ill came out, I was probably 10.
Yeah.
So I didn't really get into them until I was 14 and started rebelling. But that just stuck to me because a lot of Christian music was positive, but when I heard the Beastie Boys, I heard them touch on ideas that I'd never heard, like social justice
I
and things
mean,
like that.
Christian hip hop now is incredibly better than it
Oh
was.
yeah, yeah. I'm talking again. I'm showing my age. I'm talking about music from the 1988 to 1991, where it was just
It's like that Jesus is my friend song. You heard that
no.
one?
I heard a guy just rap Jesus, like spelling the name Jesus, and which is no shade on them, because that was new and that people were new to the concept of making Christian hip hop music, where Christian rock and roll music was very established by then. But the Beastie Boys brought information in a way that I was palatable to me, and around me where I grew up in Flint, Michigan, rap was really gangster. I mean, before gangster rap blew up, it just was. I mean, MC Breed, I got to get mine, with Tupac. That's he's from there. So that whole concept of being a gangster or hustling was normal. And I didn't relate. So I'm like, the Beastie Boys are something I could digest and understand and relate. And I didn't feel like I needed permission to be a part of hip hop culture in that respect. So yeah, I appreciate how they approach music, but you know, I understand my ears have to learn other styles. Like when I started hearing trap music, I was like, no, thank you. I can't get it. I don't get it. Or my oldest daughter, who's 23, got into Tyler, the Creator, and I really had to do homework.
You're like Tyler Creator now, or Tyler Creator like
Tyler, the
10 years
Creator
ago?
10 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, so like she comes home
there's a
with
big difference.
Yeah, she comes home with like his Goblin album, I think. She comes home with a Wolfpack hoodie with like a rainbow and a kitten on it, and I'm like, "What are you wearing?" Right? And she explains it to me, and I'm like, "Okay, whatever you say." And yeah,
You know, it is funny how like growing up, you always like want like the older things. Like when I was in high school, I like listening to like old rock,
yeah,
AC/DC and stuff.
yeah,
And then it was like old hip hop, so I was like big into Farside and Tribe
yeah.
Called Quest and stuff like that.
Right.
But I was never interested in like the new stuff.
Okay.
And so all the like, and then even then it was like you want to buy records, right?
Yeah.
And not CDs.
Right.
And now it's like, now I see people like young kids like interested in tape, like kids are buying like tape players and listening to tape, and then kids are like, I don't really like this. Like, I mean, some people like the new stuff, but people are like, I wanted the old stuff, like 10 years ago. But 10 years ago for me feels like yesterday. So when when people are like listening to that stuff, I'm like, that's old now.
Right.
Makes me feel old.
Right.
And sad.
Old and sad. I was at my wife's birthday was recently, and we went out for pizza, and the music that was being played, like elevator music, was Seal. I think the song is called Rose in a Grave, right? And I have a habit of just starting talking mid-thought. Like I'm thinking something, and then I just start saying what I'm thinking. And I was like, oh, I think this song was on the Crow soundtrack. And then, I have, 5 kids. So the younger ones are like, what's the Crow? And I'm like, oh man, I got to explain the Crow. I'm not going to let them watch this movie.
Yeah.
And so I explained the Crow, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're not watching that movie. My mom didn't even want me to watch that movie. I snuck and watched it twice.
Growing up, my parents had like VHS tape. We had a shelf of like VHS videos, and there's certain videos we weren't allowed to watch because they were rated R.
Yeah.
And the only one that I can picture in my mind on that shelf is Speed.
Oh, okay.
But then I watched Speed like later in life, and I was like, this is not that great.
It's so dated. It's so dated.
Just like a bus.
Yeah.
Right? That's like I can't remember. Like it's the brakes are the brakes out, or there's a terrorist that's driving the bus or something.
I think the brakes are out, and I think they're gonna blow up the bus, but it's from another place. So it's Keanu Reeves and what's her face? I can't think of the actress. They're trying to stop the bus without blowing it up.
Okay.
And they're on like some kind of camera. So they're trying to freeze frame the camera so it always looks the same or something like that.
But every single time I saw the cover, I was like, one day I'm going to watch that movie. And I watched it, I was like, why do my parents have this movie? It's terrible.
It's hilarious. But yeah, but even though like I try to sit and watch, I tried to watch The Matrix again, and it's so dated and weird.
But the first one though is still the best.
Oh yeah. No doubt. I mean, I haven't seen
like the other ones. The graphics may be better to an extent,
right?
But the first one, just the story itself is so good. Like even the newest one that they did, like when they did the
Resurrection or something. Yeah,
the graphics and stuff were cool, whatever. But like, I mean, the story was cool too. It was interesting.
Yeah.
But the first one is still, in my opinion, I think it's because it's so nostalgic.
Yeah.
And I just like grew up watching it so much.
Hmm.
It's just such a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, in a general sense, the concept of it and the groundbreakingness of the way they made that movie, and you see
Hmm.
how many movies now have the guy bending backwards to avoid being shot, right, or whatever.
The best scene in that whole movie is in the bank, like when they show up at the bank
Yeah,
and they put the bags like through uh the metal detectors,
yeah,
and like all the marbles like breaking off the walls and stuff.
yeah.
Best scene.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was just a really weird thing to watch because I was like, I don't know, maybe 20 when I saw it in the theater, and um I still had like just like I'm a follower of Jesus. It's just I had a lot of rules in my head. Can I watch this? Should I watch this? I don't know how I feel about that. Um and I don't think I appreciated it the first time around. I think I had to see it a second time with a different lens. Um uh but otherwise, but I mostly watched it because I was a fan of Keanu Reeves. But so it's like some things are dated, and you're just like, you know, that's trash. I'm never watching it again. And then I've seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures so many times, and the more dated it is, the more fun it is to watch. I mean, the original one is so fun for me to watch, and then you know my kids watch it and they get a kick out of it too. So those kind of things are fun. But when it's so dated that I have to explain something, that's not fun. Same thing for me with Hackers. That show is so dated, almost it's like reminds me of that's what the world could become. Like if we regress, we could go back to just telephones and.
I don't think I've seen that.
You haven't seen Hackers? Well, then you should.
I'll put it on my list.
You put it on your list. It's like one of Angelina Jolie's first movies. So it's about a bunch of like underground genius hackers that the FBI knows about, but they're like kids.
Okay.
And so it's now so dated because all their technology, you know,
Oh yeah.
laptops and all this equipment to do what we can do on our phones now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just funny. But if you watch it, it's so nerdy and dumb that it's awesome.
I was speaking of like all the stuff that we now have on our phones. Do you know that they have museums now with like CD players and like video recorders, like the
No, like a camcorder?
camcorder, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have all that stuff like in glass, like in these museums now,
That's
and kids
amazing.
are like, "Wow, that's like old school. Like, what is that?"
Yeah, yeah,
And we're like, "I grew up with that. That's
yeah,
music. That's how you listen to music back then."
yeah. Well, now my second oldest daughter, she for her birthday she wants a Walkman. And
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'm like, that's a win for me. I'm like, yay. And she likes 80s pop music. And so like we bought her, like, I know that my in-laws are going to buy her one.
But on tape, right? For the
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
no, what Walkman? Like
a Walkman, like a cassette player.
yeah, so on tape.
Yeah, on tape. And so I like bought her Lionel Richie's Dancing on a Ceiling album. And so she's pretty excited about it. So she has a cassette before she has a player. But she's super stoked.
Can you buy like? Is it easy to find cassettes, or is it now just like pretty much online, Amazon or eBay or whatever?
We got it at Goodwill.
You can still find cassettes at Goodwill.
Oh yeah, it was like super random though. It was like they had a bunch of random cassettes like Willie Nelson and you know, just
Man,
random.
you know what you should do is go to Goodwill and just buy all the tape. Buy like just boxes of tapes and then resell
Resell them, make money
to
off
like
of them.
a bunch of kids. Like, here, buy this Willie Nelson tape for $75.
Who's Willie Nelson? I'm buying it because I don't know. Yeah, no, that's well, we already have like an extensive cassette collection at our house and records and CDs. So, but then I'm like, do I want my kids to listen to that or just, you know, that's mine, you know? I
Yeah.
don't know if I want to explain you know, Andre 3000 to a 10-year-old, you know, but you can listen to Michael Jackson. Oh, I don't have much to explain there about Michael Jackson. Which is a funny story because my now 10-year-old, when we first moved here to Greenville, South Carolina, by the way, that's where we're at. She liked Michael Jackson. Like, it's very weird. Like, the day that Prince died, I was going through our records and I was going to listen to the Purple Rain record, and then she was there. I was like, "Do not touch these records." She goes, "What's a record?" And I'm like, "Okay, you're 3." And so she saw the Michael Jackson Thriller record, and she goes, "Who's that?" I'm like, "That's Michael Jackson. I failed you in life." And so I put the record on, and she was just mesmerized. So she couldn't get enough of Michael Jackson. And I felt terrible to tell her he was dead. So we moved here, and we were visiting, and we're downtown, and she falls on some steps and cuts open her chin, and we're like, "Oh my gosh!" And so we rush her to a hospital she gets like 4 stitches in her chin, but that's a lot for a 3-year-old. And the doctor was like, "Okay, how are we gonna keep her still so I can stitch it up?" And we're like, "I don't want to hold her down. That's really traumatic." And so I got out my phone and I started playing the Beat It video, and I just kind of held it over her face while she laid there and got stitched up, and she just started like lip syncing Beat It. and she got stitched up, but like the nurses and the doctor were trying really hard not to start cracking up because it was so odd to see a 3-year-old lip syncing Beat It. But it was a win for me because that was like my first introduction to pop music was Michael Jackson when that song came out.
Was it Beat It or just
It was Beat It,
or
yeah.
Just Eat It?
No, not Weird Al. But they think now that they know who Weird Al is, they think he's funny, but weird.
I still want to watch that movie about Weird Al with
on the Roku channel.
With Daniel Radcliffe, he plays
yeah. I'm like, I saw a trailer of it, and I'm like,
could be good, could be terrible.
It could be good. Just Daniel Radcliffe with a perm and a mustache is probably worth watching it.
Yeah, I saw a trailer. Excuse me, I saw a trailer yesterday for Bob Marley movie coming next year.
Yeah, there's been a lot of drama because like Christian podcasters are coming out and saying that Bob Marley became a Christian like right at the end of his life, like within 6 months of dying.
No, I heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so people are like, "No, that's not true. You guys are just trying to, take over his legacy or whatever." And so one podcaster played this interview with a bishop in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
That like is old. It's obviously VHS. It's obvious, and he's just recording his relationship with Bob over like a 20-year span. Maybe not 20 years, but it was a long time. He'd known him for a long time. But according to him, Bob converted to I guess biblical Christianity right at the end of his life and was baptized in Ethiopia.
I mean, the thing is, like, as Christians, I don't think we're trying to steal his like legacy because he still was for peace. And that's ultimately Jesus is peace.
Right.
I wouldn't put him in like a category of like big Christian. Like I think some people were like, "Oh, he's a Christian," so like we put him in this like pedestal or whatever. But
sure. Yeah.
He just lived his life, proclaimed peace, not like a kingdom peace, but I mean he wanted peace for the world.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me that in the end he like met Jesus where he was, and it made sense to him because he was like wanted peace for the world, and that's ultimately what Jesus wants for us.
Yeah, and he wanted apparently peace for himself. And so I found that really, really interesting. But it's in a way, it's like with biographical movies, I don't like watching them necessarily because it's kind of like when they say don't meet your heroes. It's like I don't want to see someone be Bob Marley when I already have my own picture of him in my mind from listening to his music. I just want it to stay there.
You know what's funny is when you hear music and then you see what they look like after the fact, like if you've never seen what they look like.
Yeah.
Like for instance, for a long period of time, I didn't know what like certain rappers look like,
Right.
and I saw them. Um, this is this is before before you could search really on your phone,
Yeah.
and I saw like what they looked like, and I was like, I expected different. You know,
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
have like deeper voices, and then they're just like these really short, skinny guys, and you're like,
Yeah.
I did not expect that.
Right. Exactly. And that's
You build this kind of image in your head of like what someone may look or sound like.
right.
Same with like Bob Marley. You have an image of what he looks like, mostly from his albums. So like seeing someone else maybe play it, it might seem.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I personally like watching the
Biographical.
there we go, that word. Movies, because it's like an artistic take on like someone's life, using like true like truth, or like using uh like the inspiration of someone and their
Right.
stories,
Yeah.
and you build a story around it. It's not all like, that's why they say it's like based on true events.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're fun to watch
But
for
then
me.
there's the Purple Rain movie, who it's quasi biographical, but they made it into a nonfiction storyline. So, so as I understand it, it is about Prince, and a lot of the things that happened to Prince in real life
Mhm.
happened to the kid uh, in the movie. Um, you know, problems with his dad and his parents' marriage, and being ignored by his dad was a musician but put down music, so he taught himself music because he wanted to be close to his dad. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like how they made that movie that way, but it's not like the Prince true story, you know. Um, but some, I mean, some are interesting. Some I'm like, I want to see that, and then some I'm like, I'm okay with what I know about them.
I guess it's similar to like Chosen. Chosen is like about Jesus
Right,
and what the portrayal, what they think of like what Jesus,
right, exactly.
but like no one, I mean, you wouldn't know.
Right. I mean, the Chosen, I mean, is a TV show, and so people are offended that they made entertainment out of Jesus, and then I'm like, why not?
That show has made me like emotional on multiple times.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just stare at it. And I've seen on the 3 seasons they've had every episode at least twice, some 4 or 5 times, just
It's really
because.
good.
Yeah.
I feel like it portrays the disciples really well, because we always assume that they were like
Hmm.
these old wise men.
Right. Exactly. It's like it depends on who you're talking to. They either portray them as, it's almost like the concept historically that they were young gets erased, and they're just big, strong, burly guys. I'm like, not every one of them was a fisherman. So that concept where people say they were just dumb fishermen that Jesus picked, I'm like, that's not true.
Mm,
I'm like, most Christians don't know as much scripture as they did
yeah.
by 12. So to say that they were dumb is not what it meant when the Bible says they were uneducated.
Yeah.
It means that they had not been trained to follow a rabbi, and a rabbi came and picked them when they didn't live up to the cultural snuff, so to speak, religiously. But it didn't mean that the first 5 books of the Bible they didn't have memorized already,
Yeah.
or other parts of the Old Testament they would have had memorized. So I think the Chosen as a production portrays that really well, and I think that they really say, um, uh, this is not quote unquote, or rather quote for quote from the Bible. This is the plausibility in between scriptures. I'm
Mhm.
like, that's a great idea. I'm like CBN has a show called Superbook, where 2 kids with their robot fall into the Bible, and then they're walking around with Jesus, and no one gets angry about that. And
Yeah.
that's totally implausible.
Yeah.
That's not even realistic.
There was this movie like 10 years ago about this guy who finds like a camera or something, apparently of like but it's called The Hunt. The Hunt for the Hidden Relic, which is a German movie, which probably why you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But essentially it's this archaeologist who finds like he doesn't find a camera per se, but he finds like someone who's mentioned something about a camera,
Okay.
about having been like filming Jesus or something. So then
Like
this,
someone dead?
yeah, like a skeleton in the ground. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I don't even know where how we started talking about the movie, but uh, look up the movie. Maybe there's English. I think I might have to try and watch it, but I'll probably watch it in German because
Because you're special like that.
yeah, because I speak German.
That's a, I mean, yeah, I think that that media in general should reflect legitimately who you are. And so when you make art that represents who you are legitimately in your heart, it's always going to be subject to criticism. Some people are going to love it. Uh, they're like, the audacity of making The Chosen about Jesus from a perspective of plausibility. I'm like, yeah. So some people are like blessed for that, right? And then some people are like pissed off, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
how dare you do that to my Jesus? We're like, who is your Jesus? Well, you
Yeah.
pour millions of dollars into making a show, and well, let's see your Jesus.
Yeah.
And then that's agenda driven. Well, I want people to see Jesus the way I see him.
Well, that's because probably most people that are like upset about it are used to like those like old Jesus movies.
Yeah.
And have you seen those like voiceovers of the old Jesus movies?
Yeah. Those are hilarious. What are they
Okay.
called? Oh, I can't think of what they're called. Where it has Jesus saying, I saw you sin and I
Yeah.
saw you sin.
Yeah. You smoked a cigarette. Yeah.
I saw you dancing with that
A
girl.
little too close.
Those are awesome.
Those were made by like a youth pastor to like as like a comedic relief for one of his like sermons or something, and then they just kind of blew up on YouTube.
I think it would be cool to actually figure out how to put it into uh, our skate church Instagram, because I think a lot of skaters think Jesus is like that, or think Christians are like
Oh
that.
no, yeah. I mean, I
know,
think that's the intention of that youth pastor,
Yeah.
that because
Yeah.
people have this idea that like Jesus or God is like you evil person,
Right,
you know?
exactly. Which is very, very weird, because I think a lot of people that give off that idea are the ones that are agenda driven, don't read their Bibles, and a lot of people that are agenda driven that claim Christianity don't go to church,
Mhm.
or they're not being discipled by someone and learning the way to walk out the faith and follow Jesus. They just carry the title and are just so insecure when they see something they think is outside their box, or rather is outside their box. They feel like they got to tell somebody about it.
I mean, it's interesting how quickly your mindset about certain topics and your idea of the gospel changes the less you spend time in the Bible and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
less you're
yeah.
discipled. Because this past year when my mom was sick, I struggled a lot with my faith. I stopped reading my Bible. I stopped praying. I was actually pissed off at God because
Yeah.
my mom was struggling so much.
Right.
Um, Definitely drank too much, and my perspective changed of like who God is and
Right.
how he thinks about people. And um, I mean, it was difficult. My mom was diagnosed, uh, and within 14 months she died.
Right.
Like she just crumbled. Like she had ALS. Started in her like mouth and throat.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't
Mm-hmm.
speak after 6 months. Couldn't eat. Was eating through a tube, and then eventually just couldn't walk anymore. Was in bed, and then passed away
Yeah.
in July. So my idea of who God was just kind of fell apart because I was like, my mom. If you knew who my mom was and how she cared for people and the ministry she was doing and how she cared for refugees and like educated
Yeah.
people on the refugee crisis overseas, and like
Right.
just like her, like she poured out Jesus. Like that's who she was. Like if you met her, she was just like this amazing woman who really cared for people. And then I was like, God, like why my mom?
Right.
Right?
Exactly. Because that's quite a legacy.
Yeah. It's just like why is she dead? Like why is she dying of this horrible disease?
Yeah.
Like her of all
Yeah.
people, And
Right.
so my idea of God changed this past year. Not until recently, actually, within the past couple months, actually less, past month,
Uh-huh.
has my faith actually been rejuvenated. and I feel a lot more at peace, and uh, a lot better about my life and who God is. And I had to kind of retrain my mind by reading the Bible and praying and being intentional about like spending that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, if you are not in the word, and you're not praying, and you're not seeking counsel, like it's easy to stray
Hmm.
quickly, and you start to think like
Hmm.
maybe God actually doesn't have the best like outlook for me.
Right.
And then that changes how you talk to people about your faith.
Yeah.
So then you talk to people, and people are looking for like, I don't know, answers or guidance from you, and you're
Hmm.
just like,
Yeah.
I don't really know if God is the only way to salvation, because
Yeah.
because you just like stop spending that quality time in the word. So it makes sense to me that people um yeah, have certain perspective of who Jesus is and their faith, because they may not spend the quality time
Yeah.
like learning who Jesus is. Because I feel like if people like spent the time like learning who he is,
Yeah.
they would treat people better, and people would have like, I feel like, I mean, there's always going to be people that are not going to want to hear the gospel. I mean, that's what the
Absolutely.
Bible says, that there's people that just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
like
Yeah.
what is it? It's like uh the smell of death, or the taste of death, or I can't remember the passage, where if to some it's like sweet, to others it smells of death.
Hmm.
Um so like we're not ever going to reach everybody, and I think that kind of takes off the pressure, because
Right.
some people just don't want it, and
Yeah.
we should be okay with that.
Yeah. I think that the idea makes some people so insecure that why even try? I'm not, if someone's not going to listen, then maybe I'm not the right one to talk about Jesus, because you need someone more eloquent. You need the great man of God, you know, with the big platform and the big social media and the great reels and things like that. Because the question of why do bad things happen to good people is a hard question. Is a hard question, and there's really no good answers to that, because some of it's just going to always be a mystery to
Oh yeah, I
us.
mean, I still struggle with that question, regardless of how I feel with my faith now. I mean, I think I was talking to a friend the other day. I sent him this devotional I was reading, and it was just um, like we're always going to struggle with doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just that's just life. Like we're just always gonna have that struggle with doubt.
Yeah.
Um, that's part of faith,
Hmm.
and um, I now really want to actually pull up that little blurb I sent him, because it was so good. Um, let's see.
I don't know how strong these microphones are, but my stomach is growling.
I think that was my stomach too. I sent him this. This was my devotional on Saturday. So what about doubts? The truth is that if you never had any doubts, you would not need faith.
Absolutely.
Faith is what carries you through the doubts. In spite of the way things look, the way things seem, the way you feel, you make a choice to believe. John 11:40 says, Jesus responded, "Didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe? I'm going to believe God, and I'm going to take him at his word. Will you?" It
Yeah.
is a choice we all have to make. So, like, yeah, I mean, and that was specifically intended for him, for he's going through some certain specific situation.
Sure.
But that kind of talks to me too. Like
Yeah.
I have my doubts all the time. It's not. I think people assume that most Christians are just like, Jesus is the way, and I fully like commit my life to him, and like I have no doubts in the world. But like I feel like that is sometimes the truth.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I think now in my walk with Christ, I feel that way, because I'm like, I feel great right now. Like I'm
Yeah.
reading my Bible. But I know that there's going to be times where I'm like, who is Jesus? You know?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that well, like recently, uh with our ministry, which basically loosely the kind of the idea of skate church is, um I think church is like a colloquialism. I mean, if you use the word church, everybody has a concept of what church is. And so when you go to a skate park and you initiate a Bible study with skaters, um, you're just giving them an idea of who Jesus is or what it is. And actually at first you don't initiate a Bible study
Mhm.
where some people might, where you just make friends and hang out and things like that. Whereas when we first did it that way, Christians were like, well, aren't you gonna evangelize or tell them they need to get saved and stuff like that? I'm like, no, I'm making friends right now, and I'm being a person of peace to the people around me because I love this culture. I love skate culture.
Well, I mean, most people, regardless of what you have to say, don't like to be preached at.
Right.
Even if you just go up to someone and you just start talking about, like, if I walked up to someone random on the street and I started talking to them about the and like the specifics of like compression of vocals, people would be
Yeah.
like, "Why are you talking to me about this?"
Exactly. Exactly. But I think but recently I shared a little idea of um Eve's talk with the serpent
Mhm.
in the Garden of Eden. And what really hit me was Eve lived in perfection and looked in the face of God literally every day. And one thought created doubt. In a world of perfection, there were no bad people. There were no bad things.
Mhm.
Um, and doubt creates problems that don't exist. Uh, the servant says, "Did God really say?" And immediately she was doubting everything she knew, and there was nothing wrong.
Mhm.
And so people say, if everything was perfect, we'd be okay. I'm like, obviously not.
Yeah,
It
right.
just takes one thought to ruin everything. And so I think in our cases, or anybody's case, the thing that derails us is, did God really say? Does God really care? Or anything like that? Because the enemy's distraction is that question. Um, and then will you refocus yourself, or what the Bible says, renewing your mind, basically reminding yourself of what you believe, and then digging deeper or talking to other people who believe and being encouraged and having hope. um, and so I mean, I think that that's what I would like to happen here. Is this podcast is about hope, but everything we say isn't going to bring everybody hope. So some people are going to be like, I can't believe you said that, and then some people are going to be like, I wish they would have said that more.
Yeah.
And and uh and that could be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But I hope people walk away, or uh feeling hopeful or positive or something like that. I mean, was Jesus a hippie making everybody feel good all the time? I'm like, absolutely not. I mean, the Bible makes it very plain that Jesus went to the religious leaders, the hierarchy of the faith, and to the prostitutes, and told them both, you have to repent because the kingdom of heaven is hand. You don't exactly know what the deal is, and I'm telling you to change your mind because I'm the one.
Mhm.
And so when you read it from that perspective, Jesus becomes really, really scary, actually. If I tell a skater Jesus wasn't nice, they look at me like I'm nuts. And I'm like, no, 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 for real. I was like, if Jesus was here, you might not like him, because he would tell you that you don't know God the way you think you do, either from a negative perspective or even a positive perspective.
I mean, just think about the woman at the well and how direct he was with her.
Yeah.
She like she came, had no idea who he was, and he was uh like he called her out on all of her like faults.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, if you met Jesus now, he'd probably call you out on all your nonsense,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't like it.
No, absolutely. I don't like it. When I feel like God is calling me out on something, I'm just like, I suck. And then but he doesn't do it so you do that. He does it so it's like, look at me, I'm reminding you of this because it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm.
Um and people say, well, I'm just a human, I'm imperfect. I'm like, yeah, but humans are made in God's image. So we're meant to know God, but God has to remind us or teach us what that means because we live in these bodies that are dying. And so we need to learn it constantly so that we remember. um, and sometimes that's easier and sometimes that's not. So like someone will say, oh, this is a Christian podcast. I'm like, well, I'm a Christian. But we're just going to talk about what we talk about.
Yeah.
But the hope that I want to convey is, in the end, yeah, Jesus is the only hope for everybody. But you know what? When I first heard Tribe Called Quest, my life changed. You know what I mean? Like it was when I first heard the Low End Theory, and I heard Q-Tip for the first time. I was like, what? Because like I'd heard rap before, but the concept of wordplay hit me, and I was 14. I was like, this is what hip hop is. This makes sense to me. And up to that point, I knew Tone Loc and anybody off Def Jam, Big Daddy Kane, all of that. But when I heard Q-Tip, I was like, this is the truth. He's trying to convey a feeling, an idea, without any agenda of or portraying an image, right? Because even like KRS-One is from a philosophical standpoint, but he's still very preachy about it, whereas Q-Tip wasn't. And so I was like amazed by that. So like I mentioned the Beastie Boys, but philosophically listening to Q-Tip, I hadn't heard anything like that. So that night, it was very interesting that I first heard the Low End Theory. I was at somebody else's house, because obviously you wouldn't have found that music in my mom's house.
And we didn't have internet at the time.
Yeah, no internet. This was 1991, folks. That was the first time I heard Metallica and the Enter Sandman. I saw the Enter Sandman video that night, and I was like, whoa. This is kind of
when did
creepy.
Sorry, I got lost in my own thought. When did internet first come around? Because
I wasn't aware of the internet as a tool or as anything useful until 95.
The first time I feel like I remember internet was 90. No. Let's see, 2000. I can't even remember now. Well, it may have been like 2001.
Yeah. As a practical tool that anybody could use at home.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah, I didn't really have any concept. When I heard of a chat room, I was like, what the heck is a chat room? This is crazy.
But in 2001, we had floppy disks. That's what I remember in 2001. Floppy disks.
Yeah.
If you don't know what those are, you should look up what a floppy disk is.
Google, use the internet and Google floppy disk.
There was a arcade, like cafe arcade place in Germany that we would go to when I was in elementary school, and you would pay, I think, like, I don't know, I think at the time it was Mark. It wasn't even Euro. It was Deutsche Mark, which is like a currency that was pre-Euro.
Okay.
You pay, I think, I don't know, a couple, which is like dollars essentially, and then they had these big like crates of floppy disk, and you'd pick out the games you wanted, and then you'd go to a computer and put it in, and you'd play your game. Okay. And then when you get done, you take it out and go get another one. And those were like arcade, like computer arcade, like coffee shops, whatever.
Yeah.
That was I guess we kind of went off on a tangent there for a second, but continue the conversation because
so before you could learn things through the internet, you had to experience it. So you had to be around it, and that's the one thing I like about pre-internet is you had to experience life differently. If you met someone, you met them. If you listened to something, you probably held the media in your hands, and so that's why I like CDs and cassettes and things like that, because there's booklets, and that's what I enjoyed because I could learn about the people I was listening to, and I could see their lyrics, and I could get an idea who they were, and or band merchandise. You actually had to go to the concert.
I mean, I think that's kind of coming around again. People want, or people, excuse me, people are starting to understand the like the good thing about tangible like things from music. So records, like a lot of people buy records, like a lot of big name people release physical records. Um and I've heard even in my circles about people talking about as an artist and a musician, you should really start to sell tangible items because it becomes more of like an exclusive thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Because everything nowadays is streamable. So like,
yeah,
if you don't release your album on Spotify, but you only release it on record,
right,
um, people are like, "Oh, I have this. No one else
right,
has it."
right,
It's also an easy way for you to support your friends because if you release an album on Spotify, unless you're like Post Malone, you're making like 10 cents,
right,
maybe ten
exactly,
cents.
exactly.
So if you're not a really big artist and you want to release music, release. I mean, I don't know. Make like, I mean, no one has CD players nowadays. It'd probably be easier selling records, but or on tape. Like release your album on tape, um, or on records, and your true like friends and family and fans will purchase it probably.
Or Black Star, their most recent project, um, they didn't release it on Spotify because they had political uh, problems with Spotify or something like that, and they released it on some other random streaming service that you had to buy to hear their album.
Hmm.
And so, like, the only song that I ever heard of it is when they were on Saturday Night Live,
Okay.
which was a great episode because it was one where Eddie Murphy came back and he uh, he did the monologue, and then he basically did every sketch and basically comedically owned everybody on that show. And then the music was Black Star, which I thought was really cool because I'm like watching it, and then my kids are like watching me on like go back on YouTube and rewatch the video, rewatch it, rewatch it, rewatch it, and they're like, "Why are you watching this again? You just watched it." I'm like, "You have no idea how amazing this is to see Black Star live because I'm never going to see them live."
Yeah.
But I've not gotten to see the album or hear the album. Um,
I need to go look it up later today. Then
yeah, but
I didn't even know that.
Uh, but it's really cool. So it's like the exclusivity of it, or the not that we're better than anybody, but it's like we made this music for ourselves, and this is how you get it, and this is
Mhm.
how we want to respectfully, put it out there. Um, because like I said, everybody uses Spotify now, or like, if someone tells me, "Aren't there enough podcasts out there?" I'm like, "No, because I'm not out
Yeah.
there." Well, what makes you so special? I'm not. That's exactly why. Excuse me. I do it because I had this idea that this would be good, um, to share some thoughts. And since the option is there, the opportunity is there, why not take it? Because it could help somebody,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of podcasts out there, like a lot. But there's also everybody and their mother has an Instagram, and
Yeah,
people just keep creating accounts. So there's always going to be excess of information and people out
right.
there. So
Instagram could become MySpace overnight.
I
Uh,
probably will be.
yeah. And I liked MySpace.
Yeah, you
Um,
could code
yeah,
and
you
make
could
your own
code.
colors and add your own music and
I
stuff.
loved that. I loved that. And you can't do that on Instagram and you can't do that on Facebook. But now it's a weird entity. Like if you try to go to MySpace now, it's really, really weird. But um, it's kind of archaic, but that's what people think about Jesus is he's archaic. And I'm like, no, he's not. He's very alive. And a lot of people don't understand that Jesus brings you a power, not in a spooky way, but a life and empowerment in yourself that when you receive him the way he says to receive himself biblically, not just, yeah, Jesus is cool, but like actually receive him as a savior, uh, and admit that you need help. Um, it's empowering in a way that because God's spirit comes in to live inside of you and you see the world differently and your wants and needs change because you're focusing on him. And so I mean, in this space, in this podcast space, I don't think that message can be put out enough.
Mhm.
And I don't think it is put out enough. I think there's a lot of agendas, I don't like this preacher or that preacher. And I'm like, I could care less about a preacher or who says what right and who says what wrong. I'm like, there's other people that'll do that. It's better just to be real, honest, forthright conversations about a real life experience. And so I'm really appreciate you coming on. The audacity to come on here and talk about randomness with me, because I think talking about Jesus is normal, but I didn't know what we were going to talk about. But this is how you and I talk.
Yeah.
And so this has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So this has been the Audacity Podcast. Thanks for watching, and I hope you go out and tell your story in the way you need to say it. All right. Peace.
Peace.